Hey there. This reading is for all of you with Pisces placements out there. My name is Vincent, and we are here. Now, I've been using the Taro Yowali Hikak deck by Mi Corazon Mexica for most of the readings that I've been doing lately. But for Scorpio and Virgo, I have used the Thoth deck. Can't really explain why I felt compelled to do the readings with that particular deck, but it seemed to fit well with the energy that was coming through for them. I feel like you're part of that conversation, so I am also using the Thoth deck for you today. That might have something to do with the fact that Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, is in Virgo, which is opposite your sign right now. Sort of activating and impelling you to focus upon 7th house matters. Things that have to do with partnerships, especially one-on-one partnerships. Those can be romantic, they can be professional, they can be legal. Take that as you will. But for whatever reason, for better or for worse, there is a part of you that is focused on and energizing yourself around the concept of partnership with someone else. I also kind of, in contemplating this, was thinking about feeling motivated to clean house, specifically for the express intent of making space for somebody else to come in. Maybe that's part of what Mars in your 7th house is doing. Mars in Virgo. Virgo kind of likes to clean. But when Mars is in an earth sign, there is a compulsion to actually direct our activity and our energy into actually doing something, into activity, into creating real world results. Whether that be rearranging furniture. I don't know why this concept of like cleaning house and moving things is coming up, but maybe that's relevant. There can also be a focus on maybe wanting to be elsewhere physically. Maybe like planning out trips that are going to be happening further down the line. Like that's kind of something that I can kind of see with this particular configuration. So I'm going to pull some cards for you. We're going to see what comes out and see what sort of darts we can throw at the board to make this all make sense. Okay, so 2 cards came out. We have the 7 of Cups. This is the last decan of Scorpio. It's a Venus ruled decan. So interesting, like how I felt that the 3 of you, Virgo, Scorpio, and you, Pisces, you're all part of some kind of conversation that's happening. And usually when I see this card, I think of the process of purification, of like transmutation. I live near a lot of waterlands and like swampy areas, so a lot of the times when I connect with abstract energies, it kind of expresses itself to me through the real sort of perceivable natural phenomena in the area that I'm in. So when I see this card, I really think of like a hand reaching into the swamp and pulling out a clump of mud and like watching the silt kind of disperse through the water around it. Not necessarily poisoning it, but like muddying the waters so that it's difficult for you to see underneath. And I feel like this card represents both that process of like sort of soiling the environment that is around you, or being exposed to corruptive influences. I'm not, take that as you will. Or it's the opposite process where it's actually the process of clearing out the mud, of the silt settling back to the bottom, or even being siphoned off and removed altogether. Maybe also this process of like evaporation. So the water in that really muddy, dirty, and murky environment sort of evaporates and is transferred to a new space. Condenses in the pure, clean, beautiful, wide open environment of the sky and becomes a cloud and maybe falls somewhere else. Like, something about that process of becoming corrupted and being purified is relevant to this card. I also feel compelled to mention the kidneys, because the kidneys kind of follow a similar... There's a similar sort of archetype in the vein of what I've been speaking on, that is expressed in the function of the kidneys in our bodies. Separating the moisture, the water, from the more gross material. And when I say gross, I mean like the physical material that's like minerals, enzymes, vitamins, all the excess stuff that our body didn't absorb, for better or worse, and allowing that to leave the body through the bladder. Okay. Well, the second card that came out, we'll probably reference that card again in a minute. I feel like there's more that wants to be said. We have the Eight of Wands. This is the first decan of Sagittarius. Mercury ruled. And what this card typically expresses to me, given that it is the first decan of mutable Sagittarius, and Sagittarius kind of leads us into the southern solstice, there's kind of this excitement, this knowledge, this foresight that we're about to enter into a transition, we're about to cross a certain threshold. And so the energy is kind of getting excited. It's like the buzz before the play starts, the buzz before the movie starts when you're in a theater. Like, something about that kind of energy, sort of feeling really giddy and excited and kind of spreading out in multiple directions, but also there's this it also kind of communicates a sort of condensing or a gathering up of that energy, sort of enveloping it, of enclosing it within a vessel of sorts, so that it's not wasted and misdirected. Kind of like how we become quiet in a theater. I don't know why that analogy is coming up, but like how we're all kind of excited about the movie or the play that's about to start, and we're talking and chattering and laughing, and then the lights kind of start to dim, and then we're aware that the movie is about to start, or the presentation, the play, whatever it is, and we silence. Rather than externalizing our excitement, we internalize it and we hold space for what we're about to see. Like, something about that process is relevant to this card here. We're going to pull some more cards because I'm curious to see where all of this is leading. Okay. We have Aquarius, the Star card. This, to me, represents setting our sights on something, providing ourselves with not necessarily a guide. Well, I mean, in some sense, you can think of the star as a guide because we do use it, or in the past we used it a lot more so than we do now, as a way to center ourselves, as a way of navigating, of utilizing the various stars and their positions as a tool for deducing our position on the earth. And in the same vein, allowing us to orient ourselves towards a specific place or direction relative to the stars, so to speak. But to me, it's very future oriented. I mean, the Aquarius Association kind of expresses that much. This focus on something that has not yet occurred, utilizing the environment around us to kind of deduce where the patterns are leading. Also, a process of allowing our environment or the past to influence and to inspire creations that we will be bringing forth into the world. And creations can mean like actual artistic expression, or it can mean even just the decisions that we make in our lives, the directions that we choose to go. I consider that a sort of creation, because we are in effect creating the story that is our lives. So I'm going to pull a couple more cards, because like part of my brain is trying to contextualize this card with the other two cards that we've already discussed, but I feel like we need to anchor ourselves in a couple more places in order to do that. Because I'm seeing like, I don't know what those graph charts are. Like when we score a certain percentage in, there's like multiple, it's a circular graph chart, and there's like multiple points of criteria that were scored on, and depending on our score in each criteria, it charts these specific points on the circle graph, and some points are closer to the center, meaning we scored lower on them, and some points are further out towards the diameter, meaning we scored higher on them, and it ends up creating this weird this weird shape, which shows where we're very strong and perhaps where we have some weaknesses. Something about that image seems relevant to whatever you're going through, Pisces, like maybe needing to balance out our approach to life so that we're aware of our strengths and aware of and able to check our excesses, and also to compensate for and maybe work on the parts of our lives that aren't quite so strong. And I just realized like this card right here kind of perfectly expresses, or almost perfectly expresses, the chart that I was kind of talking about, where it creates a shape based on where you've scored. Obviously, I mean, these are like equidistant points, but hopefully you kind of get the point that I'm trying to get across. So let's see. I saw this card on accident, and so I kept shuffling because I was like, maybe that's not the card. And it still came out anyway. But we have the Six of Wands, Victory card. This is the middle decan of Fixed Fire Leo. This card to me kind of represents that point in the journey where we feel like we've made it, or feel like we've crossed some sort of threshold where we don't have to worry about falling back anymore. It's kind of like reaching the save point in a game. Like all the effort that you've been putting forward into the progression of your storyline has reached an impassable barrier, has crossed that barrier, and now there's like a sense of, okay, I can celebrate, or I can relax, I can acknowledge the work that I've done, and I can trust that it's not going to be undone because it's past that point. Like maybe the energy's been kind of frantic up to this point because we haven't reached the sort of the proverbial save point yet, and now you're there, you're past that point, and you can kind of take a breath. and appreciate where you are. You can look around and appreciate the beauty in things, and you're not frantically trying to get somewhere else anymore. Like, I feel like that was kind of part of the picture previously, and maybe this is sort of representing the, okay, now we can focus on something else. Now we've made it to the space that we were trying to get to, and now there's work to be done here, and I don't have to worry about being in the wrong place for doing the work that I'm going to be doing. Now, with that in mind, I'm looking back at the Seven of Cups. And when I think of the interplay between the Mars-ruled domicile of Scorpio and this Venus-ruled decan, Mars to me represents this energy of separating, of dividing, of cutting through, of releasing, maybe even losing. And Venus is like the principles of art, but also of physical objects, of the things that we value in life, whether those are actually physical objects like paintings, books, or whatever, or the relationships that we have fostered and worked and nurtured, in our lives. Also the opportunities, the jobs, the volunteering positions, that sort of thing. It's anything that we value and choose to hold dear to us. And then Mars kind of cutting through all that, maybe removing our attachments to these things. And that can be, I think, part of the reason why this decan and this card is called Debauch is like, it can be sort of self-destructive if it's not done properly. I don't feel like it's self-destructive in your case right now, Pisces. I feel like it's more along the lines of, these things were great and it's important to honor and value them, but it's also time to move into something else. It's time to cut loose from these things. It's time to sort of evaporate from your current environment and move elsewhere. The cycle must continue. That's kind of another association with fixed sign of Scorpio. Like, we're moving in the last decan of Scorpio, we're moving out of the modality that's, very stable, very fixed, doesn't want to move, doesn't want to change the environment, doesn't want to change the opportunities that we're interacting with, wants to keep our relationships that we already have in place and not allow them to change or move on in any way. And then we're moving into Sagittarius after Scorpio, where the energy is able to move freely again, and we're feeling excited, and we're aware that things are about to change, that we're about to transition into a new phase, and crossing a sort of threshold in a way where we can acknowledge, hey, we've set our sights on a goal, we've been working towards this thing, and now we've made it here. There's still work to be done, of course, but we've at least made it this far. And now we can breathe and trust that we have the inner and outer resources available to us to continue on in the way that's necessary for what follows. That was a long line. I hope you kind of followed. I'm going to pull another card, or it's going to fall right out. Okay. Seven of Discs. This is the last decan of Taurus, which is in exact opposition with the last decan of Scorpio. Now, in this deck, the card is called Failure. It is ruled by Saturn, so it does kind of have that heaviness to it, sort of like a downward, austere, maybe even stoic and melancholic sort of feeling about it. it's interesting. I'm almost seeing this card as like a warning to not go here. I don't think this is necessarily communicating that the direction that you're moving in is going to end in failure. I think it's more that perhaps you have anxieties about the outcome resulting in a failure of sorts, of the work that you've been doing, not reaching the save point and losing all the work that you've done to get to where you are now. And I feel like your confidence in yourself, the resolve that you hold in yourself in whatever situation you find yourself in, it's going to be tested. I feel like that's another message with this card, especially given the fact that it's, Saturn will decan. Saturn's kind of showing up for the conversation. Today, as I'm recording this, I think in just a few hours from now, Saturn will be stationing retrograde in the early, I think, first, second degree of Aries, and is actually going to be retrograding back into Pisces for one last little stint. I think from September until February of next year, of 2026. And then at that point is when we have that big conjunction with Neptune. But I think this period of Saturn going back into your sign is going to bring up all the old themes that we were kind of discussing over the last few readings that I've done for you, where I think there was more mud and silt and dirt and kind of really difficult situations where you felt like you weren't able to move forward with anything because it was just like you take one step back or one step forward and then you take 3 steps back. Like it was just this constant struggle to get anywhere with anything, and feeling very, very tired, very clouded, unsure of things, very confused, perhaps very unfocused. And then when Saturn kind of left your sign, maybe you were kind of exposed to the freedom that provided you. The air opened up again. You could breathe freely. Like whatever weight was sitting on your chest finally let off, and you were able to get a glimpse of where the energy is moving. But yeah, I feel like this card is representing whatever is going to come up again as a result of Saturn maybe going back into your sign, or maybe some situation is going to be coming up from the past, perhaps with regards to relationship, maybe an ex-partner or an ex-business partner, maybe an old boss reaching out to you and asking you to come back. That sort of resurfacing of old haunts, of old struggles. And with the exposure to those resurfaced opportunities, I hesitate to call them that. Maybe like reflections or revisitations is a better term for them. As a result of that, the old self-doubt or the old nagging feelings that whatever you do won't be enough kind of come up for you and take over your perception and your experience and maybe kind of dictate your choices again. But I feel like in being aware that this process is going to be taking place, there is an opportunity for you to separate yourself from the automatic sort of autopilot response to those situations coming up again. When you're aware that it's a pattern that's a larger pattern that you're sort of along for the ride for, it makes it easier to not just kind of mindlessly automatically react according to your emotional reactions and responses to the situation, and instead sort of exercise a higher level of judgment where you can recognize where the larger pattern will take you if you do go a specific direction. It provides a level of detachment in whatever situation comes up. So I think maybe that's important for you to keep in mind. So when you get those sort of creeping shadows coming in from the edges, just be aware that it's it's part of the pattern that's unfolding right now. It's, you don't have to kind of give up and surrender yourself into the abyss, so to speak, just because it looks like the abyss is creeping back into your life again. I feel like it's just testing you, just testing your resolve, and also maybe I don't want to say forcing, I feel like that's a strong word, but impelling you to re-examine the opportunities that were already made available to you in the past, and re-examine whether or not you are actually okay with the decision you've made to move on from them, or if maybe you need to work on or revisit certain avenues that you've kind of left behind you, if that makes sense. Like maybe there is still work to be done in your old haunts, in the places you've already been, in the relationships you've already had. Like there's still some work that needs to be done. There's still some poison or some mud that kind of needs to be sifted through, maybe siphoned off, so that you can clear the air and clear the space for something else to come in. Because I feel like overall that's the general sense of what the energy is doing in your sphere right now, is kind of undergoing this process of elimination. For the end result of being purified and open and receptive to new and exciting energy. Okay, Pisces. I'm just trying to think if I want to pull another card for you or if I want to leave it at that. Since I had the thought and I figured whatever, we'll do it. We'll do it real quick. Maybe like one final closing piece of advice for you, Pisces. Something that you need to know. I think this is the card. The number of times I've seen this card in the last just few days. This is the Nine of Swords. It's called Cruelty in this deck. This is the middle decan of Gemini. And this to me always represents, I kind of sum it up in my head as like aggressive communications. It can refer to things like gossip. Whoa, sorry, messing with the exposure there. For me, it can represent things such as gossip or slander, or people kind of flinging accusations at you, or being really cruel in their judgments of you or another specific person. Whatever is being communicated, because it is air and because it is also Gemini, and Gemini expressed through the lens of Mars, it's kind of like that angry, even venomous words. But it can also be like that focused intellectual energy, that focused mental pursuit, to ensure that the communication is coming across in the most clear way possible. Like it's not, because you can kind of see in the background this kind of, it's definitely like geometric and even symmetrical back there, but it also feels really busy. It feels really cluttered. It almost feels jagged and kind of angry and rough. So I think the highest expression of this energy is in sort of gathering all these different scattered perspectives and feelings and thoughts, and focusing them and securing a clear intention and a clear goal, making sure that our sights are set clearly on something, and we're not just sort of dilly-dallying and scattering our energy every which direction. We're gathering, we're containing the excitement, we're containing the the activity, and also putting up boundaries in a way, because I think part of this card also communicates a need for ensuring that we're not just letting everyone into our lives, we're not letting every perspective in, we're not considering every option as a possibility, we're being very sure to filter out the things that are not helpful for us, are not beneficial for us, and making sure that we're not allowing other people or situations to drain our energy, and that we've clearly drawn the line that we will not cross, both for ourselves and for the people that we encounter, so that they know you will not budge from this place, because you've already seen the consequences of having done that in the past. So yeah, just keep that in mind with this card. I feel like that's an important piece of advice for whatever the situation might be coming up for you in the future, or that you're dealing with right now. And don't feel discouraged. I feel like that's necessary to say. Don't feel like you're being overwhelmed, or I shouldn't say don't feel like you're being overwhelmed. If you feel overwhelmed, you're just going to feel overwhelmed. But don't allow yourself to give in to feeling like you're powerless in any situation that you find yourself in. Don't surrender decision making to other people in the situation. Don't let them walk all over you. Don't say yes to every request that is made of you. Acknowledge where you're burning the candle at both ends, and then stop doing that thing that's, draining you in that substantial way. Anyway, I hope that all made sense. I'm going to leave it at that for you today, Pisces, and I'm going to wish and hope for the best outcome for all of you. And I think you can have that outcome as long as you're true to yourself and aware every step of the way. Don't be a slave to impulse and emotion, and I think you'll be fine. That's another message with this card here. It's like, don't be swayed by every little emotional landscape that conjures itself into your experience. Because fundamentally, you are not the emotions that arise in your experience. You're not the thoughts that are in your head. You're something far greater than all of them. So stay focused on that. Identify with that part of yourself so that you're not swayed by whatever, I hesitate to say storms, but whatever situation comes up for you. Okay? Anyway, I'll ramble on if I keep going, so take care, Pisces.